All right, welcome to Midas Marnie. My name is Marnie Melrose, and today I am interviewing David Smith, and he is going to tell us, first off, how he got involved with Bitcoin, how he got introduced to Bitcoin, first off. So why don't you take that away?
Sure. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I first heard about Bitcoin in December of 2011. I've always been into technology, and I was at a small company. We were doing web development and mobile app development, and I was in a sales role, but I still liked tinkering with technology on the weekends. And I'd heard about Bitcoin. I don't know if it was in the newspaper or read something on Hacker News or Slashdot or something, and I checked it out, and I thought it was really cool. But like most people, when they first hear about it, I thought, there's no way that this is going to go anywhere. It's really cool technology, but people are just never going to accept it. And then I pretty much forgot about Bitcoin until last year when the price exploded and it started hitting the news again. And then I just thought, wow, this is unreal. The underlying technology is solid. This could really be something. And so I decided to make a little investment in Bitcoin. And when I made that little investment in Bitcoin, then I started following a lot more, and I started reading about it and learning about it, and it just sucked me right in. I couldn't focus. I had a mobile app development business, and I just couldn't focus on that. I just knew I had to do something in Bitcoin. And so about November of last year, that was when I decided to shut down my company and just be in the Bitcoin space full time. And it's been really exciting, and I'm just even more excited about it now, a year later than I was a year before.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. And so, tell me, were you when did you start investing in it?
I got really lucky because I wanted to get in right at that peak, right after the big run up, like in April or May.
Uh-huh.
But because our current banking system's so bad, it took me like a month or something to actually make my investment. So when I bought my first Bitcoins, it was around the $90 level, and maybe I got some at 90 and some at 97. So sub hundreds, and that was really good. And I was there for the November run up and all of that.
I'm sure you were very excited at that time.
It was kind of shocking, yeah.
Well, I had one of our viewers actually had a question for you. She says that now that we're so close to getting in out of early adopter and into early majority, is there still an opportunity as an investor in Bitcoin?
Well, yeah,
And
actually, I think it's really lucky for the audience member. Last year when I was in it, I was excited about it, but I didn't tell my friends that they should all buy some.
mhm,
Today, I think everybody should have some.
okay,
For that is because last year there was no Dell accepting it, there was no Expedia accepting it, PayPal. There's been so much great news this year, and so it's so much less risky than it was last year. Last year it seemed like this probably isn't going to happen. Especially before they had the congressional hearings. I think it was in November. People didn't know was it going to be banned in the U.S. But now it seems pretty clear that it is legal and it is going to happen and take over unless something happens to stop it. Unless a better technology comes along or unless regulation comes along to completely ban it, and those seem unlikely to happen. So today I think it's a really great opportunity for investors to put some money in there. For some people that might be $1, for some people it might be $100, for some people it might be $1 million, and I see the opportunity for a huge return on that. You know, Unimaginable returns. A lot of my friends and I believe this is probably the investment opportunity of our lifetimes, that we're never going to see something so clear cut where it's something that people should invest in. One
absolutely,
of
especially right now. I mean, we're down at 416, so now it's fabulous, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, and if you think about the internet, there were venture capitalists and people with a lot of money who were able to buy in to internet companies. They could bet on Amazon or Netscape or Microsoft before they went public. But the difference is with Bitcoin, you don't have to have a ton of money. You can go on to Coinbase, and just everyday people can go and invest. The other cool thing is you're investing more in a safer investment vehicle, than going in an individual company. Like if you invest in a company and that company tanks, you lost your investment. But when you invest in Bitcoin, you're investing in that whole ecosystem. And so anytime somebody like Dell or Expedia makes an announcement saying they're using Bitcoin, the underlying fundamentals of your investment just went up, regardless of that if that's reflected in the price or not.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I kind of, a lot of times I use that analogy of it's like a global IPO, except that normally in an IPO, non-accredited investors can't invest until it goes public, right? And
Yeah,
so that's the difference here, is that anybody can invest at any point in time in Bitcoin, yeah?
yeah, and that's a really good way to think about it too. An IPO. So if we think about like a Facebook, and there were rich people who owned Facebook almost from the beginning, and we didn't see the price volatility that they saw. Their investment would have been going all over the place if it was publicly listed back then. Based on news events. If MySpace closes or goes up or launches a new feature, and so that's one thing that can hurt people who aren't used to investments that fluctuate a lot, because they get into Bitcoin, like some they might have bought in December when it was at 1200, and now today it's at 400, and they're like, I lost so much money.
You haven't lost it until you've sold it.
Yeah, and then I think they're being kicking themselves too, because when it drops, it's hard to hold on to it because it hurts. But then if they sell it and then it goes up, and then their thousand would have turned into 10,000 or 100,000, but instead they sold it, so they got double whacked because they hurt when they were down, and then they sold it, and then it hurts even more because if they would have just held, it went up.
Exactly. And so are you happy with the way that it's taxed in the United States as a capital gains asset?
I think it's a confusing issue. From an investment perspective, I am happy that it's taxed at the capital gains. It provides opportunity for people like myself to end up having a lower tax bill at the end of the day. I expect in the future it'll be good for everybody all around, because if the tax structure stays the way it is, I think companies like Coinbase and Circle and Blockchain will just integrate it into their product, where you check the taxing jurisdiction you're in, and then it will use the Bitcoins that make the most sense from a tax perspective. So I think it'll actually be a good thing if it stays the way that it is, but I think it makes it more complicated for everyday usage, where even if the software handles it, people just still don't like that complication. You just want to spend your money. You just want to buy your McDonald's or your hamburger or your Amazon purchase, and you don't want to think about taxes at all. And so I think eventually it will be changed, where it'll be a currency instead of a capital asset. But I'm happy either way.
Exactly. Yeah, so do you know what I really like is both Brazil and Australia have put in a very interesting taxation structure. Brazil is any transaction below 16,000 is ignored.
Mm.
It's completely ignored for taxation purposes. And in Australia, I believe it's about 20,000 is ignored. Anything over and above that is the capital gains, because that is now a verifiable investment, right? Um, as opposed to, the everyday transactions that we do that are just little small transactions. There shouldn't be making tax on that. That's idiotic.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that the fact that two countries have done that now, perhaps, the United States IRS might have a look at that and think about that. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I think something like that makes a lot of sense. And those laws aren't really designed to just bog people's lives down. Like you said, the way they do it with those floors, it's taxing it the way people are using it, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And so hopefully there will be some regulators or legislators who agree and make the laws match the reality of the situation.
Exactly. And you know what I think too is that you're not going to be able to, realistically, they don't have the auditors to go in there to be able to track everything. I mean, it would be a nightmare to try and track it at that level, to be
Yeah.
completely honest with you, unless the software does it for you. But still, the thing is that I have wallets with Coinbase, I have wallets with Circle, and I have wallets with Green Address, and I have wallets with blockchain, all for different purposes and different uses, right? Like I have a spending wallet versus an investment wallet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I have off the blockchain cold storage. And so really, even if Coinbase or Circle handles what they see internally, also they don't know whether I'm moving that from Coinbase to Circle. It's still mine. I haven't sold it. I just moved it, right?
Yeah.
And so how do they account for something like that? And that's something that I don't think that they've logically thought through that whole process, of trying to figure out, well, when when did that actually, I didn't sell it. I never sold it. It's still mine. I just moved it from one wallet to another, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, that's going to be really interesting to try to figure out how to handle that. And yeah, going to wonder about that for a long time. Tell us exactly what you're doing and, how you're involved with the Bitcoin world. I noticed that you have BitcoinBulls. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. BitcoinBulls is this new community. I think it's only 3 weeks old, maybe. And the idea there is, I was really successful with my Bitcoin investment last year.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did my Bitcoin appreciate in price, but I also was earning dividends at places. I had some investments in some like bond type products. And I really like that idea since I was long Bitcoin anyways. Long, for those people who aren't familiar, means that I believe the value is going to go up in the future. So if I'm holding my Bitcoins anyways, just like I would want to have my dollars in a bank account earning interest, I wanted my Bitcoins to be working for me. And that really helped out a lot last year in the gains that I had. And so this year I've been trying to do the same thing. I've been testing out products that make me money from having my Bitcoin stored with them. Like at Bitfinex, they have a swap product that lets me loan out Bitcoins to people who want to borrow them.
Margin?
Yep.
Right.
And BTC Delta and BTC Jam. And so I made this Bitcoin Bulls community to help people who already have Bitcoins. And one side of that is earning money on it, earning money on their Bitcoins. The other thing that can be really hard as a Bitcoin holder is these drops in price. You might get cold feet and you might think, wow, what am I doing? Am I crazy? Why is the price down? And so this community is just for everybody to be among friends, and it can help people stay grounded and remember why they got into Bitcoin, why they believe in Bitcoin, and, help get some other perspectives on how other people see news and how they're feeling about the price and the future of Bitcoin.
And well, the neat thing is too is that if you understand the market, especially with an exchange like Bitfinex, you can short it as well, so that you can make money when it's going down as well as when it's going up, right?
That is true. I would never short Bitcoin, but
I have. I have, and I've made a few pretty pennies sometimes when I've done that.
that's good.
Because I do more of a swing trade rather than a long hold, right?
Yeah.
That's the type of investor that I am, and I just let it go in, watch it go through a trade, and then I pull out of that trade, as opposed to long-term investing where you just buy and hold and hang on, right?
Yep. I'm more in the latter camp. Yeah, a lot of my friends they want to play the swings and they always look at how much money they could have made. It feels like when I try to predict the markets, either in Bitcoin or in the regular stock market, I'm good with the long-term view, but as to like what it's going to do tomorrow, I am bad. It seems like it just does the opposite of whatever I pick.
I'm not too bad with it. I'm not too bad with it, and I do love that the TradingView app. Have you ever used that?
No, I've used like Bitcoin Wisdom.
Try TradingView. I would highly recommend that because they have like this chat area, and especially when things are going south, everybody shares their charts, right? And so they say, okay, this is why this is happening over here, and this is why that's happening over there, and oh, there's a whale doing this, which is means somebody who has a lot of bitcoins. Um, is moving in and out. Like I guess the other day there was like somebody bought $2 million of bitcoins on Bitfinex. That was exciting.
Yeah.
But I was curious why the value went down instead of up. I'm like, hello. So I guess there's some of these things that I'm being a new trader myself. I just don't quite understand yet either.
Yeah, it's always shocking too. Like when Dell announced they were accepting Bitcoins, the price didn't move at all. And to me, stuff like that's just so weird.
Yeah,
Or
and the fact that PayPal, they did that great video. Did you see that video yet?
yep.
I love that video. I'm like, oh my God, these are our people.
It's so good when it for the day it launched. I was wondering if somebody hacked their account, like a pro Bitcoin person.
I know. I was just like, wow, this is us. This is totally us. Yeah. So I was happy about that. So we'll see what happens, going forward. I've used Circle. I'm really excited about that. Have you used that yet?
Yep, yeah. I think I initially applied for an invite March 28th or somewhere around there, and I finally got accepted maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Super fast, isn't it? Like, I mean, compared to Coinbase, it's like, boom, in and out, really quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's smooth.
Yeah, yeah. So I like think my audience is more, I cater towards small businesses, medium-sized businesses. That's who you're talking to right now. Besides a lot of, Bitcoin people who follow us as well. But my traditional audience is that, and so being able to have the mainstream to have it be really quick and really easy is so 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 important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's important to be able to get in and out, fast. If you don't have Bitcoin, but then you want to you read the Chicago Sun Times and they just take a quarter's worth of Bitcoin, you can hop on your Circle account, get your quarter, and go spend it.
Yeah,
Versus having to wait. It just ruins the whole experience when you have to wait.
absolutely, absolutely. So what are your favorite tools? What wallets do you use? What exchanges do you use? What can you share with us?
Well, I've got like you. I've got a Coinbase account. I've got a Circle account. I've got a blockchain account. I primarily use Coinbase. I intended to switch everything over to Circle because they were insured, but I haven't gotten around to doing that. And I think I saw headlines that Coinbase has everything insured now. I'm not sure if it's just their hot wallet or their hot and their cold.
I think it's when you put it in the vault. I'm not positive though. I'd have to look that up.
But and then I do try out lots of Bitcoin products like Change Tip. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
heard of
that's
it.
great.
Yeah, so for anybody in the audience who doesn't know, Change Tip lets you send money to anybody on like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I'm a on one of my websites I had an issue. I don't remember what the issue was, but I posted to some forum about it, and this somebody helped me out. And so I was thinking, if they help me out in real life, I might buy them a beer or something at the bar. And so this person who I'd never met, I didn't have their email address, I didn't have anything other than just their username. I used this product Change Tip, and I said, buy them a beer. And so what it did was it took $3.50 worth of Bitcoin out of my account and just sent it over to this person. And doing stuff like that is just it's just so cool. It makes the internet almost more like a community where you can interact with people and buy things for people, help people out.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I've used ChangeTip. I love that thing. It's awesome.
Another cool one is BTC Jam.
Uh-huh.
And this one's kind of like a lending club or a Prosper where people go on there and they say, maybe they have credit card loans or they're trying to start a business or something, and they'll say, I want to borrow money, and they'll post their interest rate. And then you can browse through these loans and you can say, oh, I know Midas, she's good. I'll loan her some Bitcoins. And then, instead of them borrowing from a bank, they're just borrowing straight from another investor.
That is, well, maybe I'll do that. So that we can get some more of our education materials out, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's cool too because a lot of the people who are on this platform or live in other countries, and
Hmm.
apparently there they pay really high interest rates, like maybe 100% per year. And so then, for me as an American, I think the highest interest rate I've ever paid is 7%, and the highest interest rate I've ever gotten is about 4%. So, if I can loan money out to somebody at 10% or 15%, I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And for that person in the other country to say, wow, I can borrow at 10 or 15% instead of 100%, it's just this really amazing deal on both sides.
That
And
really is what I love about Bitcoin is we were talking just earlier about the fact that, it's like a global IPO, right? So as the price of Bitcoin rises, right? So let's say that I have, $200 here and somebody in Africa has $25 and the price of Bitcoin rises, they're no matter what they invested, theirs rises as well. And so that really makes a difference, and that's like one of the reasons why I am so pro Bitcoin is because it is that global nature, and like you say, we can help each other all around the world.
yeah, let's touch on that in a minute. There's one more cool service I want to mention. It's called StoreJ,
Yeah.
and it's like Dropbox, but except instead of paying a company to store your files, you're just paying people out on the internet who have decided to provide hard drive space.
Mhm.
And so it's expected that it'll really bring down the costs of storing data, make it more secure, more private, and then it'll also, instead of paying some company, it'll be individual people, almost like farmers. And I'm excited about that company in particular, because they're trying to kill Dropbox, but
Yeah.
also just that idea of having almost like a new way of organizing work in society where instead of having these companies that dictate what everybody does and having these executives that take a lot of the money, having it where it's more just a producer and a consumer. And I'm interested to see how that plays out. My gut thinks that it'll have some interesting implications in terms of producers doing a better job providing what consumers want, because I think it'll be like a faster market feedback loop.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would agree.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in that project and just those types of things in particular. There's another one out there. It's called I think it's called Twister, and it's like a Twitter, but there's no company behind it. So it's just
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
yeah, I used it a little bit, and it's hard to install. Yeah, you kind of have to be a techie, but once you get it going, it works really well. It looks almost like Twitter, and it was a pretty smooth experience. It's just really interesting to think about somebody competing with Twitter, but with no profit incentive. They're just there to make the best product they can make. Uh, and then hopping back too to the international that you were talking about, I think that's one of the things that gets me excited about Bitcoin is it just has so much potential to do so much for the people of the world, and least of all Americans. Like for us, Twitter is this maybe entertaining or informational product, but it's really creating social change, in other countries where they're uprising against the government or using it as a real tool. And I see Bitcoin in that same way, where it could really change the lives of people, in Africa or Argentina. In Argentina, they have, high inflation, so their wealth is just being sucked away from them, and that's
Yeah.
a challenge for them. In Africa, somewhere around 80, 85% of people don't have banking services, and Bitcoin, can fix those problems. It can give somebody in Africa who has nothing, access to the state-of-the-art financial tools that people in the U.S. have access to, and they're on the same platform. It's equal, and that's really cool.
Yeah,
Have
it
you-
definitely levels the playing field, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I think a good way to think about that is, prior to the internet, to get your idea published, on YouTube, or to interview somebody on YouTube, or to have a blog, to have that kind of reach and be able to put that message out there, required a lot of money. You had to have a television station and license. And today it's somewhat similar with the banking services. It's expensive to do IPOs or to do loans or to have escrows, things like that. And then with Bitcoin, it just drops all those costs down and makes it available to anybody in the world, who just has access to a cell phone or a computer.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it.
Definitely.
So is there anything else that you're working on here just before we close our show today that you'd like to share?
Well, the BTC Jam that we talked about, I have a write-up on my experiences on my website, BitcoinBulls.net, and also I did a webinar with their Chief Marketing Officer, Flavio Rump, and so people can go on there if they want to learn more about how BTC Jam works and how they can potentially make some money there. And then on the website too, you can sign up for the newsletter. If people are out there and they are invested in Bitcoin, the community is going to pick up and get going. So I would encourage people to check out BitcoinBulls.net.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think you've really shared some, basics that some of the people might not have known about. And especially all of those things that you use, like you say, change chip, BTC Jam, all of that stuff. It's good to share that information amongst each other, right?
Yes.
Tell each other what works and what doesn't.
Thanks. Actually, that brings one more thing to mind. I have another website called SoWhat'sBitcoin.com. And this website is for people like my mom or my dad. They're not techie, and when you explain Bitcoin and talk about blockchain or peer-to-peer, they don't know what it is. But then if somebody goes on this website, they'll see that it uses analogies more like email, where you can send money anywhere in the world as easily as you can send an email, and talks about how it's empowering, and that's a really good website. If people are new to Bitcoin, or if you're having trouble explaining Bitcoin, just tell them to go to SoWhat'sBitcoin.com, and that'll help people understand Bitcoin in plain English.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for producing that for us, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again at some point as your Bitcoin Bulls starts to grow a little bit more.
Thanks, Marnie.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining today, and don't forget to donate so that we can keep this wonderful show going and keep, people informed about Bitcoin and what's going on in the Bitcoin world.